The briefing I submitted afterward ran to 11 pages, which my department head returned with a single annotation at the top: reduce. I understand what she meant. What I cannot tell her is that 11 pages felt thin. I will try to say it plainly here. My name is Sareth Kuhn. I am a xenobiologist, Class IV, assigned to the Conclave's Forward Survey Division, 14 years of field postings. I have documented 41 species in their native habitat without once being detected, and I say this not as a boast but as context. Concealment is my profession. I am very good at it. My team would say the same about themselves, and they would not be wrong. Oreth has 22 years in the field, Seval has 19, and even Pav, the youngest among us, spent 4 years on the Vethrek posting before she joined our unit. We are not amateurs. We have never been mistaken for anything other than what we are, which is a group of extremely careful observers who are not there. The human's name, according to the Planetary Survey Registry we cross-referenced before insertion, was Marin Voss, a geological survey technician, posted to the plateau scrubland of Tethovan Reach for an 8-week sampling rotation. Alone. No support staff, no local contact, no communication window scheduled until day 31. By every metric available to us, she was an isolated, unaware subject, exactly the kind of posting our division exists to document. The Conclave had been attempting to gather direct observational data on unaware human subjects for some years by then. Most of our previous attempts had been cut short by logistical complications. This was our first clean opportunity in 2 years, and my department head had made clear she expected clean results. We deployed at night, 4 of us, myself, Technician Oreth, Technician Seval, and Junior Researcher Pav. We established Forward Station Orvik 3 in a low scrub depression approximately 400 meters northwest of the humans' camp, behind 2 ridgelines and a dense stand of the planet's tall-stalked ground cover. The concealment was thorough. Our sensor suppression array was running at full capacity. We emitted nothing above ambient background. We had done this, between us, more than 60 times on as many worlds. Our footprint on the environment was, by any standard measurement, indistinguishable from the background noise of the scrubland itself. I remember thinking, settling into my observation seat on that first evening, that this would be routine. For the first 2 cycles, it was. Marin Voss woke before the local sunrise, which I noted and filed as a small behavioral anomaly. Most species with her sleep architecture do not preempt the light. She ate from a self-heating container and spent approximately 4 hours collecting surface samples in a grid pattern southeast of her camp, methodical and unhurried. She returned, logged the samples by hand into a physical record rather than a datapad, and spent the remaining daylight on equipment maintenance. Nothing notable. The behavior of a competent professional doing exactly what the registry said she was doing. On the 3rd cycle, I noticed the camp geometry had changed. It was subtle. Her equipment shelter had shifted perhaps 2 meters northeast. Her sample staging table had rotated perhaps 15 degrees. Individually, neither meant anything. Field equipment gets adjusted. Terrain is uneven. Positioning changes for a dozen practical reasons. But I am a xenobiologist. Pattern recognition is not optional in this work. I logged the changes and widened my observation window. On the 4th cycle, I noticed her morning sampling route had changed. Not dramatically. The grid she was working was the same, but she began it 11 minutes later than the previous cycles. 11 minutes later than the previous cycles. Our sensor sweep cadence runs on a 17-minute primary interval with an 11-minute offset on the first morning pass, a standard conclave configuration for low-signature observation. We had swept her camp at sunrise, 11 minutes into her previous morning routine, and found her absent from the central area. On cycle 4, she was present at camp at sunrise. She was present for the entire 11-minute window when, on previous mornings, she had been moving away into the sampling grid. I sat with this for a long moment. I did not say anything to the team. I ran the timing against our logs 3 times. The correlation was precise, not approximate, precise. I widened the observation window further and began watching things I had not thought to watch before. Where she set her tools down at the end of each working period, what angle her small reflective instruments faced, how she positioned herself relative to the ridgeline when she stopped to record field notes. By cycle 5, I had my answer and I did not like it. The long-handled geological sampling core she had been using since our arrival, a tool that was, by any technical description, meant to be pressed into the ground, had been resting each evening against the eastern face of her supply crates at an angle of approximately 32 degrees from vertical. 32 degrees. I asked Orath, without explaining why, to calculate the reflection angle of our primary sensor, array's passive emission signature off a polished cylindrical surface at 32 degrees, at a distance of 400 meters, with our array positioned northwest. He gave me the number. The tool was aimed at us, precisely aimed, not within a margin of chance. I ordered the team to full passive mode. No sweeps, no active emissions, nothing above the background signature of the local scrubland. We ate cold rations and did not speak above a murmur. On the 6th cycle, the human did not change her behavior in any way that I could detect. She woke, she ate, she sampled. Methodical and unhurried. The tool rested against the crates at 32 degrees. I called a withdrawal conference that evening. I laid out the evidence. Orath said it could be coincidence. Seval said the tool angle was probably functional. She might have been using it to track the local sun position, a primitive navigation method she might have learned in field training. Pav said nothing and looked at the ground. I listened to all of this. Then I told them we were withdrawing at 200, via the northern extraction path, which I had pre-mapped on our original insertion, and had shared with no one, not logged, not transmitted, not spoken aloud in any medium that our instruments could record. I had calculated it in my head and committed it to memory because I am, after 14 years, the kind of field worker who does that kind of thing as a matter of habit. At 1:45, Maren Voss emerged from her shelter. She walked at a calm and unhurried pace to the northern edge of her camp. She did not look northwest, toward our position. She stood at the northern perimeter and spent several minutes doing what appeared, through our optics, to be a routine check of her sample perimeter markers. Small flags she had placed in the ground to mark the boundary of her working grid. Except the northern perimeter was not part of her working grid. She had never worked the north face of the plateau. Her sampling grid was entirely to the southeast. She checked the markers carefully, one by one, and returned to her shelter. We withdrew through the northern extraction path without incident. I have spent 6 weeks since then attempting to construct an explanation that does not require me to conclude what I believe I must conclude. The tool angle, perhaps coincidence, though the geometry argues against it. The shifted timing, perhaps routine variation, though it tracked our sweep interval with a precision that routine variation should not achieve. The northern perimeter check, perhaps habitual, though she had not done it on any of the 5 previous cycles. Each of these alone is dismissible. Together, they describe a subject who, within approximately 1 hour of our arrival, understood that she was being watched, who then spent the subsequent 5 cycles doing 2 things simultaneously. Her assigned work, without any perceptible change in competence or output, and a parallel project of mapping us, our position, our sweep cadence, our likely extraction axis, using nothing but the tools and behaviors that were already part of her professional routine. She never confronted us, never deviated from her work in any way that would confirm awareness, never gave us a single clean data point that would allow me to state, in a formal report, the subject knew. What she gave us instead was a sequence of precise, deniable adjustments that added up in aggregate to a complete model of our team's presence, configuration, and intentions. I am a xenobiologist. I have spent 14 years learning how to study things without being noticed. I will tell you what I told my department head when she asked me, after reading the 11 pages, why I was recommending a full revision of our standard insertion protocol for any world with human presence. I said, we went there to observe a lone, isolated, apparently unaware human subject in her natural habitat. The protocol assumes the observation is one-directional. That assumption needs to stop.